This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by nhliberty.org/forum. Well, for once, anti-socialist activism at the federal level seems to be doing better than anti-socialist activity at the state level. It's the exception, not the rule, but it seems to be happening.
This is Concord, New Hampshire.
They're afraid of us, and rightfully so.
This is not a health forum.
You've seen all the ruckus around New Hampshire surrounding Obamacare, most of the activity aimed at feds lately.
Yes, on set! Yes, on set!
And you've seen the prominent attempts to pass New Hampshire state legislation, which would limit the feds. Well, now the state-level push seems to be losing steam, while the battle at the federal level has at least succeeded in slowing the socialism of healthcare. Amidst the noisy national victories against Obamacare comes a quiet state-level defeat. New Hampshire State Rep Dan Itza has put forward an innovative but long-winded bill that would have punished federal personnel if they prevented medical transactions. I call it an attempt at state-level defense against Obamacare. Well, for good or ill, the entire Health/Human Services Committee voted it down this year, and it was recently defeated in a floor vote as well, with a margin over 2-1 against. The conventional wisdom says you can't move Washington, but you might be able to nullify Washington using state legislation. This worked with Real ID, but I guess conventional wisdom can be wrong. It doesn't always work. In addition to this recent nullification flop, there was also a shockingly low turnout for House Bill 1343 last week. That's legislation which would establish a committee to help monitor and punish unconstitutional Fed activities. Only about 15 people showed up to support that bill. I wouldn't look away from state sovereignty fights just yet. They're promising. But it's starting to look like there are still many paths to victory. State sovereignty apparently is not a panacea. And the traditional genius of the old American system still has a bit of life in her. Anyway, Representative Thomas Donovan is apparently on the state committee that heard Itza's bill, the Health, Human Services, and Elderly Affairs Committee. Here's his explanation for the recent slapdown of Itza's attempted defense against Obamacare. Quote, HB 1648, prohibiting interference with access to medical services and health insurance of New Hampshire citizens. Inexpedient to legislate. This bill contains a series of findings arguing that any potential congressional insurance mandate on individuals is unconstitutional. The committee believes that determination of the constitutionality of a law is the appropriate function of the judicial system and not the legislature through enactment of the RSAs. In addition, while the stated intent of the bill is to prevent a federal mandate for individuals to carry health insurance, the bill itself makes it a crime for any federal or state official who prevents, attempts to prevent, interferes with, or withholds medical services from a legal resident or inhabitant of New Hampshire. The committee understands that federal law and physicians' codes of ethics already address a patient's ability to access health care. The bill's other main provision is that federal or state officials shall not prevent residents from contracting with an insurance carrier authorized to conduct business in New Hampshire. The committee heard no testimony to substantiate that government officials have attempted to prevent individuals from enrolling in health insurance plans regulated under state law. Vote 18-0. Unquote.
So some of you may be familiar with...
So what's going on with state sovereignty in New Hampshire? We used to get a lot of people excited about it. Why the lull? Well, maybe we are victims of a flash-in-the-pan effect. When the idea was new, it got a lot of support. now it may need some sort of spark to get it going again. That could come in the form of some new federal outrage, or it could come in the form of a new approach. For now, the sleeping giant of state sovereignty continues its nap, and Washington presumably gets more time to maneuver its subtle countermeasures into place.
It is said, or certainly could be said, hell hath no fury like a well-intentioned government.
Gratuitous public domain parties.
Well, now, I don't know how good the intentions are over here, but I can tell you that the folks at the State House in Concord, New Hampshire, are not interested in protecting your freedom for the most part. They're taking it away, piece by piece. Fortunately, unlike in most states, they're not doing it without a fight. That is in large part due to the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance at nhliberty.org. Now, if you were to go into the State House there behind me and do this, you would hit one of the members of the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, because they're in there all over the place fighting for your freedom. They also offer free training if you want to learn the ways of the citizen freedom lobby. Visit them at nhliberty.org.